Okay, wow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of PATAS Weekly. We are live. Today is Saturday, May 23rd, 2020, and it's another great day not to get COVID-19. In addition to this program, PATAS Inc. also has a blog that is updated several times a week. Simply go to patas.org to read the blog. There you can also donate to our organization. If you are willing and able to provide a donation, you can do so via patas.org/donate. Follow the instructions through PayPal, and your donation goes straight to our organization. I want to thank you to all the people behind the scenes who allow this show to happen and make it possible for us to do this. I really want to thank PATAS Inc., who allows us to come here and do this live show. And this is a live call-in show. You can call by visiting the link on the screen, right here where I'm trying to point, hopefully, bit.ly/PATAScall. And there you can just join by going to the Discord and go to the caller screener or caller on hold, and they will screen your call to see what it is you want to talk about. Today is Atheists Ostracized. That is our topic for today, and not to be confused with the date and episode number on the screen. It actually is not May 16th. It is May 23rd. That's my apologies. And today we have co-host John Joe with us right here. So he's off to my left side here. You're right.
Hey. Good evening. It's a gloomy day, but hopefully it won't be a gloomy broadcast.
Hopefully
Should be
not.
fun and sunny. Yeah.
I think we'll have a good day today. I'm really hoping we get some good callers and some good conversation. So today is all about atheists being ostracized from their families and their friends and their coworkers. And I have a little bit of a backstory on that. I'm going to give mine, and then I'll let you tell yours. So there are a lot of issues that I've run into with my family. When I first came out as an atheist over 10 years ago, I think it was like 12 years ago now. My family, at first, they were very upset with me. They thought, "Oh gosh, how can this be? You're working for the devil. You think all this." And they tried so hard to convert me back to Christianity and Catholicism. And some of my family no
How old
longer
were you?
talks to me. I
How old were you when
was,
it started?
I think, around 19 or 20 when this was all happening. So I'm actually 32 now, so it's been a long time. Most of my family is accepting of me of who I am now, but for about the first year and a half, I had a lot of trouble with my mom, my dad, my aunts and uncles, and there's some portion of my family that still doesn't talk to me. Um,
Wow.
and there's I don't want to talk to them either. To be fair, I have my own reasons, but it's it's really really weird that religion can poison people in that way. And the other aspect of this is that I lost a lot of friends. I used to go
Wow.
to
Okay.
I used to go to Southern Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Florida, and one of the biggest churches there is the First Baptist Church, and they take up, I think, like 10 city blocks in downtown of just buildings that they own. And I played in the orchestra every Wednesday and Sunday. I was with every group. I was every Bible study. And after I became an atheist, I stopped going to church, and some of my friends found out. I didn't come out on purpose, but I kind of let them know, or let one of them know, and then they sort of outed me to all my friends at church. And after that happened, almost everyone at church, barring maybe two or three people, just stopped completely associating with me, and I haven't spoken to most of them since then. So there's maybe one or two people that still talk to me, but it's very difficult. And I had a lot of friends back then, so I don't know. It's difficult to remember all of them because most of them were like high school friends, and that was a long time ago. But yeah, I was doing that for years, and I feel like it hurts. It hurts to think about that. That's what happened to me, and that because of the religion that they believed in, that forced them to feel like they should push me aside and cast me aside. And when I think about
Yeah.
these people, that I think about how they think, oh, their religion is totally inclusive, and it's actually exclusive, and they just don't realize it, and that really hurts. But anyway, I don't want to be the only one to talk about. I want to hear your story too, how it's affected you. So, John, I'm passing it over to you for a moment.
Well,
Tell us.
I think like that's why I had to ask what age it started for you. I believe when it started, well, when I started thinking about things, they called it a rebellious stage. And well, as some of the viewers might know, I'm in a band also. I've always been in that metal and rock scene, and they kind of looked at it as like, oh, it's just rebellion. It's just another form of expressing his teen self. Till later on, I became full atheist. But prior to that, there was more ridicule and not really understanding or communicating about it. Well, my dad was fairly open to the discussion, so there was no problem in regards to that. But everyone else around me just thought it was like, oh, here's the devil boy. Oh, here's the Satanist. Woo-hoo! Metal, metal. Like the usual, typical easy outs. Instead of discussing, they would just label me. But I didn't exactly. I wouldn't say I struggled as much. What happened was with family. Yeah, they wouldn't just they just wouldn't invite me to baptisms and weddings because it was pointless. So I'm the guy that's always there in the reception for weddings, but I'm not there for the actual wedding in a church. So I haven't really felt that being ousted by a group. But I did have some friends. What happens a lot here in the Philippines is like the Bible study groups and those like um those types of orgs that they get teens together or youth together, and then they have
Right.
outings, they have campings. That's the only time I kind of felt like I didn't belong or I wasn't invited because it's FOMO, fear of missing out. So yeah, I guess I can say I didn't suffer as
Right.
much, but I did experience it like in other cases. Like for example, one case is a sibling wanted to have her kids baptized, and
Hmm.
they wouldn't let them because of their religious affiliation. Eventually, that did get resolved, but we had to go the long way around to get that done. But in regards to
It's
family,
it's funny you
they
mentioned that,
all. Mhm.
because one thing you said back there a minute ago was that they thought it was just a phase. I have an aunt who I still talk to, who after 12 years of me identifying as an atheist still thinks I'm just going through a phase, and
Yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine the level of just I delusion that requires for you to think that that's still a phase after 12 years. I mean, I don't know. It's it's really weird, and I don't get it. But um, it's maybe because I didn't really know any atheists as I came to my own atheism. I mostly just found them online and through books and stuff. So I can't really relate to what it was like to know an atheist as a Christian, or anything like that. So it's very strange. I don't know about you, if you have any experience with that when you were a Christian, or if you ever had any atheist friends that you knew, because
Oh,
um,
I did have atheist friends though. When I was growing up, we had neighbors down the road who they weren't going to mass, they weren't participating in village activities and stuff. And it came up the topic of why don't you guys do this? And it's like, oh, we're atheists. So then I was like, oh shit, you can be that? Okay, cool. So maybe that's one of the things that sparked the curiosity, a little fuel to the fire is actually meeting like I've been friends with neighbors with Mormons, with born
mm.
agains, with Iglesia Ni Cristo, different kinds of religion. So I think that's an advantage I had growing up. Maybe I was raised in an area where it was a community of just really different people. So I guess
That's
that
actually
worked too.
that's actually a really good point. It's possible I actually did know atheists as a Christian and didn't even realize it, because
Mm, yep.
um, it may be the case that either they just didn't use the word, or it just rolled off my back like a duck, with the way the
Mhm.
water just rolls off there. Like I would just say, oh, that's really just code for Satan, or whatever, devil worshiper. Maybe I just ignore. I don't know,
Yeah.
because it was so long ago now, and I was so much younger that it's hard to really put myself back into that place and think about what I remembered. And actually, that's one of the reasons I'm going to announce this really quick. Either next week or whenever I am able to go live again, we're going to have Jenna Belk on the show. And she's from the Atheist Experience, and she's a new atheist. Like, she's only been an atheist for about a year and a half or so.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I'm thinking she might have a little more connection to remember some of that stuff, and that's kind of why I wanted to
Mhm.
have her on the show, because I think she'll have a lot of value to add to that part of the conversation, because I can't remember all of that stuff, and um, I think the further away you get from it, the harder it is to recall properly. So anyway,
Yeah, and that's why it's what I notice in the chat groups and the Facebook groups is that it's really the young atheists that have a problem with this. Well, rightfully so. We went through that path, that same path that they did, but we're over that hurdle already, considering our age. But yeah, hopefully we get some young callers today, some fresh meat, fresh atheists out from the slaughterhouse of religion. So because they have the stories, they have the problems that need to be addressed. Didn't you agree? Like,
uh, yeah. Whoops! I broke her screen. Hang on. Yeah, actually, if you are an atheist and you do not want to call in, but you just want to tell your story, you can email us at live@patasinc.org. In fact, that goes for everybody. If you don't want to call into the show today, or you're not able to, you can email us at live@patasinc.org. That goes to myself and some of the other people behind the scenes, and they will happily answer your email, and we can also talk about your emails on the show. So, yeah,
mm,
please consider sending an email if you don't want to talk, or you can talk in the live chat where we will also be willing to read your comments on the air and discuss them if you also don't feel like comfortable enough to call in. I know some people it's a little intimidating for them, me and this big white guy and this big old guy with a uh, what is it, like a Carl Sagan shirt? What is that shirt? Show me again. Yeah, that's a Slayer shirt. That's Carl Sagan. It's fabulous. I
very good.
actually didn't know that was Slayer right off the bat, but yeah, I love that. And this we're not
Yeah, that's
intimidating. We're not going to yell at you. We're not going to bite your head off, but we appreciate it. Nico says
yeah.
hi. Hi to Nikos. Thank you.
May
Um,
the force be with you.
that's actually my anniversary for my wife and I is May the 4th. So, there's a
Excellent.
story
Mhm.
that I wanted to talk about, and I don't have it pulled up at the moment, but I believe you sent it to me. It was like as an African or Nigerian man who was an atheist who was jailed for being an atheist.
Yeah,
Is that right? Do you
yeah,
want to
that's the one.
expand on that story, or should I bring it up and talk about it a little bit?
Well, yeah, you can bring it up, but I think it's something that happens a lot, especially in other countries. Not as much here. Maybe the
Right.
only time that that really happened in the Philippines was the Carlos Celdran incident, where he walked into church with the sign Damaso. That was a media fiasco. And yeah, he's no longer with us on this planet anymore. But yeah,
Mm,
he was quite aggressive with his atheism. He's actually an acquaintance and friend of mine because I've worked with him in the past. But
I
yeah,
see.
some people it puts atheists on the fence. Like in my case, I don't think it was a smart move on his part, but at the same time, I can applaud the bravery because it takes giant fucking balls to do that.
Yeah, I don't know much about the story myself. I haven't really looked too deep into it, but I was curious about it. And then that kind of made me wonder. Like you did say, that doesn't really happen here in the Philippines, but I wonder what does happen in the Philippines. And your story does, and put a little bit of light on that. And I know that I don't want to speak for her, but my wife's story is fairly similar to how she's kind of lost friends and family, or how they are
Mhm.
constantly trying to convert her back around to being a Catholic or a Christian. And so it's really quite interesting. But uh,
I see a double standard though when it comes to the Philippines. Because okay, to some of our new viewers or listeners,
mm,
I'm actually quite vocal. I'm a former TV host, radio host, and vocal. I'm known for being very, very vocal atheist. And more often than not, my shows wouldn't get canceled. I wouldn't get fined. I wouldn't get penalized. So I don't know. It's like maybe if you're in a cross-platform media type of stage, it's tolerated because it's seen as entertainment. But if you do it on your own as a personal endeavor, then you get into trouble. I don't know. That's something I've noticed
I see.
because I was kind of trying to push the lines before of how far I could get, quote unquote, preaching or just talking about it.
Yeah.
Because like even on the in the radio program I had, we would always say Jesus backwards is sausage, and that's how I would end the show. And we even had a character on the show. His name was the Jizz. He was an
The
Aussie.
jizz. Okay.
Yeah, his name was Jizz, and he was really arrogant, but his real name was Jesus. And we never got complaints or calls about that, which was odd. And people love the character.
I
But if we
wonder.
did it outside the show, we probably would have gotten in trouble.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like this show, for example. Like,
Mhm.
are we risking anything by doing this live show on Facebook with, hashtag Philippines stuff like that? Like, are we putting ourselves at risk, or is that just my like paranoia?
Well, the thing about it's at the end of the day, it's really about the intent of what we're doing. So what we're doing here is it's a platform for people to discuss, talk, and open up about their experiences.
Sure.
It's more for the community because in reality, atheism in the Philippines is the minority, and
Yes.
there's hardly any voice of the minority. And if there is, it's always arrogant, assertive,
Right.
just rude atheists. So we're trying to break that. We're trying to break that myth that we're all a-holes because we're actually nice people and you can talk to us. We don't have horns, we don't eat babies sometimes.
That actually brings up another, and it actually wants me to, I kind of want to go off to the other side of this, which is, yes,
Mhm.
atheists are ostracized a lot. Like, I mean, that's just a fact. Like, there's millions of people, or not, I don't know if it's millions, but thousands of people who are split up from their families who, if you identify as an atheist, they will kick you out of their house if you're a kid or a teenager.
Mhm. Yeah,
But at the other side of this, there are Christians and even Muslims alike who think that they are the ones who are being oppressed and they are the victims because atheists are trying to push a godless agenda, and this whole separation of church of state, or church and state, is a violation of their freedoms. And of course, I think that's a
Mhm.
bunch of crap because obviously a separation of church and state protects everybody's right to a religion that they want to hold, as
Exactly.
opposed to this is the particular religion of this country. But um, yeah, I'm I have a lot of
Yeah, I think
experience with
there's
Christians who think that
mhm.
way and think that they're the ones that are ostracized.
Yeah, there's a bit of a superiority complex because there's more of us and less of you, therefore, our whims should be followed. And that's exactly what oppression is.
Yes.
You have to give a voice to people. So in regards to the show, I don't think we're openly mocking people. In fact, we're open and our doors are open to discuss. So I think that's the cool part about it. So I
I
don't think our
will.
safety is in concern.
I will mock people who deserve mockery, but that's not my go-to. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, the oppression thing. I get really frustrated. And the other day, I actually had this conversation with a Christian on Facebook. I can't remember who they were. They weren't on PATAS. There's somebody else who said, Christians just have a really hard life and all this, and it's really difficult to be a Christian. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? I mean, come on. You can leave your city right now. You can completely move, uproot your life, go to any city in the United States, and find another building with the same name that you already go to before, and you have an instant community. You're telling me
Yeah.
that that's difficult to be a come on, that's ridiculous. And atheists are the ones who are currently relatively disorganized. I mean, and we have to do a
Yeah.
little better job of that. And I don't think that we should have like this sort of hive mind atheism thing where we have like groups where there's a leader or whatever in that sense. But um,
Mhm.
at the same time, there needs to be a better organization against this religious mindset, and that's kind of where I'm at with that. Being
Yeah.
able to create these communities where I can leave and go somewhere else. Which, granted, the internet is a great way to do that, but at the same time, if I go to a place that's 99% Catholic, and everyone around me is Catholic, it's really hard to find those groups within your area, and you have to kind of start them up from scratch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know.
It can be difficult because it's the herd mentality. And like when people ask me, it's like, do we have a church or anything like that? We don't, because every atheist is on his own, basically.
Yeah.
And more often than not, you're ganged up on,
Right.
especially if you're surrounded by religious people. They will gang up on you, and whether it's discourse or argument,
Yeah.
and that feeling kind of sucks. But along the way, you're gonna meet people who share common ideals. It might not be perfect, but you will have commonalities with people. That's where friendships begin. That's how relationships work. There has to be that level meeting ground, like the saying that when you're drinking with friends, you never talk about politics and religion. So if everyone kind of follows that, that's cool. And then if you want to discuss it further, you can do it on your own times. You know?
Yeah, what's so interesting about that is when it comes to like I used to go to family gatherings. We don't really do those anymore. But well, I mean, I have been in the Philippines for 3 years, so I really haven't done them because I don't have any family here. But when we used to do that, we'd have Thanksgiving and we have big families, and we'd have Christmas dinner and stuff like that. And one of those things that would happen is somebody, not me, would usually bring up religion or the topic of religion in such a way that they know that they're kind of poking at my
Yeah.
they're pushing my buttons, and they know that's what they're doing, and I could tell that they know that's what they're
Yeah.
doing. And
But it's not. That's where it's nice to have a healthy sense of humor about it as well.
yeah,
Believe it or not, I'm more often than not, I'm asked to say grace. That's why when the family's together, it's like, all right, who's gonna say grace? Oh, of course, it's gonna fucking be John Joe. So everyone
right.
laughs. So there's that sense of humor already that's built up between the family or close friends.
Yes, and this is the thing. I was in a very heavily Catholic family. Excuse me, I have a burp. One second. I was in a heavily Catholic family, and it wasn't nearly the same level of sense of humor about this topic. They're all very conservative, maybe barring one or two other people in the family. Sorry, and they were all very, very religious. And
Mhm.
this topic would come up at dinner. I would try to keep the peace. My goal was to just have a nice family dinner. We're all here to relax and enjoy the holiday and just have great food. And I was actually the one who was helping doing a lot of the cooking and setting up the tables and just being really, really nice. I swear I was trying to be so nice. And then somebody, usually my aunt or one of my uncles, would say, well, them atheists are just trying to take over America, and you can see and I'm just like, oh fuck, here we go. And like, he knows he's gonna get me to say something, and it's gonna start a whole debate. And my goal was just to avoid that at all
It's
costs.
poking the bear. It's poking the bear. That's what
Yeah,
he's doing.
yeah. And Andrew actually in the chat, he said, "We don't have horns. We don't eat babies. We are not going through
Sometimes.
something sad in our lives. We are atheists. We are enlightened. But this is not ready for that. Our parents are not ready for this. I don't know that I would say we are enlightened. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you could make that argument in some cases, but my immediate response to that is it kind of gives off an air of arrogance, like we've discovered some secret truth. um,
Mhm.
and I think more it's like we're skeptical, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, I appreciate the sentiment, Andrew, and you're not completely wrong.
Mhm.
So
I guess what he means is it's basically the lifting of the veil, because really it's
yeah,
thinking for yourself, you
yeah,
know.
I totally
So
agree, and
it's
I think that's what he meant too. So I don't want to beat up on him for the
Mhm.
language.
Yeah, but yeah, we eat babies sometimes.
On
Depends.
occasion, usually baby chickens
Yeah,
or baby pigs. Um, I
I don't even know where that started. Like there are ton loads of memes like that, and that's another thing about having a good relationship with your religious friends. Believe it or not, Ben, I'm sent memes, like the strangest, like most religious people. Like they send memes to me that they obviously can't post on their walls, so they send it to me for me to post it. It's odd. It's odd that they have that behavior, that pattern that's forming already. And like I think I mentioned it last week that I'm known for Blasphemy Sunday. That every
mm,
Sunday, I guarantee you, I'm gonna post some hilarious meme about religion, and I have a lot of religious friends who actually even like it.
right.
So that's why I start questioning myself and them, and just seeing them in a different light, I suppose.
I have not been approached with that, but I think the reason you'll find that you have been is because you're a Filipino. I would have to guess that's it, because atheism is becoming more prominent in the United States.
Hmm.
It's not beating religion by any means, but it's certainly a lot more prominent than it used to be. The nuns, not N-A-U-N, like the N-O-N-E-S, are becoming
Mhm.
more and more prevalent in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot less fear with the topic now and the discussion. When I first became an atheist, it was very different than the playing field we have now in the
Mhm.
U.S. But the playing field that we have here in the Philippines reminds me of a lot of like 10 or 20 years ago atheism. I wasn't around then as an atheist, but like 10 years ago, it kind of reminds me of what it was like back then. You guys have a lot of work still to do here. So that's one
Oh
of the
yeah.
reasons why we have this show.
Mhm.
And so it's to try to push that positive atheist culture into this country a little more and hope that we can spread the word. And we have 18 viewers right now. We were up to, I think, 25 at some point. So that's really great. I want to thank you all for being here as well. And really appreciate the support that you guys are showing. Make sure you give a nice free like. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. And share if you want to share, although I can understand why you might be reluctant to do that. Send it to your religious friends, your religious groups, if you would like to have them call in and tell us why they believe what they believe, and we can address it here on the show. I don't know
Mhm.
if we have any callers. I haven't checked the caller sheet. Let's see if we have anybody coming in. I don't think we do. Um, no, we do not. But yeah,
Mhm.
I'm just happy to keep talking. It's fine. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
back
go
to what
ahead.
we were back to the topic of the being ostracized. We were discussing how it's hard for some families. Now, I personally know some people who have questions in their head. They do have um, inquiries, but they stick to this religious persona as
Mhm.
not to cause waves in the family and stuff like that. More
Right.
often than not, the ones that are in fear the most are the ones living with their parents, which is
Yes.
kind of weird. It's a very very difficult situation to be in. But I also think because of the rise of information and the digital age, especially now during quarantine, you have so much time to do research, so much time to share ironic religious related content that's when you can see who you can talk to. Like if you post a religious meme or an article that kind of ridicules a particular sect, then you see those likes. Chances are those people are the ones you're able to speak to about it offline. I don't know. That's just a guess of mine right now.
Yeah, you know
Because if they can,
what's interesting?
they can say, mhm.
You mentioned the increase of information or access to information, and I agree. But the thing about that is, it's actually a double-edged sword because not only do you have a bunch of easier access to good information, there's a lot of bad information, and it's
Mm,
sometimes unless you're very skilled at knowing what to look for, you may not understand that something is fake news or that this is bad information. So it's easier for everyone to share any information, good or bad,
mhm.
and that's a good thing and a bad thing in some ways. But
Yeah.
if fake news has become a serious problem, and now that they've had a lot more practice at it, it's become even more difficult to spot. I used to love sites like The Onion with all their humor and stuff, and now I can't
Yeah.
stand it. I can't stand it because it's so close to home now. Because I've actually seen people share sites like The Onion or Onion articles
Mm,
that they think is actual news, and I'm like, that's just how bad it's gotten. Where
yeah.
the fake news is almost indistinguishable from the real news. Um,
Yeah, but at the same time, you have the rise of fact-checking sites, which I
yeah,
think has become very, very useful. Because the trigger word "fake news" has brought up all these other sites, all these other people who want to correct these things. See, so
I
that's
have
the
a
thing, and it's the mentality you have when studying or observing religious things is that you have to kind of be in that mindset even when it comes to comic news or movie news. You have to be skeptical
yeah,
still. You have to, like, find out more. Like if you read something from one article, you got to find something that supports it,
yes.
because basically that's the claim.
I actually went, and I know we're getting a little sidetracked, and we'll come back around to the topic, but I want to just really quickly talk about that because there's a way in which I go about doing my research on any topic that we do or talk about, at
Mhm.
least when it comes to news, or just even for my own self, even if I'm just researching something out of my own curiosity. If I see a news article, my immediate reaction is not, that's true, that's the truth. My immediate reaction
Yeah.
is, okay, what is this article trying to tell me? What
Mhm.
arguments are they making in favor of this case? I can usually pick out like what they're about to do. Like there was an article I was reading with my wife about the news regarding the shootings of drug users here in the Philippines. And I saw them
Mhm.
like talk about so and so and his credentials, and I said, ah, they're establishing this person as an authority. And so this is what they're doing. They're saying this is all the things this person has done, and then they're going to use that as a way to bolster his what he's about to say. And it's true because he is an expert in the field, so it's not an appeal to authority fallacy. But they did that on purpose, and I like the way they structured that. And what I
Mhm.
usually do before I even read a news article of any kind, if I don't know the source, I go to mediabiasfactcheck.com. That's mediabiasfactcheck.com. And I go there to check, like, what are the independent sources saying about this source? Is it left leaning? Is it right leaning? Is it somewhere in the middle? How often do they post fake news, or how accurate are their news sites? So you can actually see that in their
Mhm.
website. And there's other websites like that, but that's probably the most popular one and the easiest one to access quickly. They have
Mhm.
like ABS, CBN on there and stuff like that. And um, yeah, so I will do that, and then I will go. Okay, now I know at least I'm reading something that is possibly left leaning or possibly right leaning, so I know what to look
Yeah.
for when I'm reading that article. And then
Yeah.
I do the same thing as I'm actually reading the article. I go, all right, what are the arguments this person's making, right? And then like, where are the claims? And I'll say, okay, here's a claim right here, and then I will search that claim. Like, I don't want to go into specifics, but you get, I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing about fake news that I see a lot on social media, especially in the Philippines, is that they blame news outlets, which are basically reporters. So when you're reporting something, you're getting that information either it's firsthand or researched. Okay. Now, more oftentimes, that's when misinformation happens because people don't understand that. Because I was a reporter, I was a music reporter for the longest time, and my information would come straight from the sources themselves, or sometimes rumors that they said themselves. So it's not you're not able to fact check it until somebody else does another interview or another report. So I think that's where people have lost faith in reporters because I can be interviewed by a reporter and tell them a completely bogus story, but it's their job to report it. So they will still report it, you know. Sometimes there has to be fact checking behind it. But when it's
Yeah,
opinion based, that's it. It's opinion based.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
very difficult sometimes.
And that's another key component is when I see a claim in an article that I'm reading that says anything scientific, any claim of science or any claim of data research, I stop reading
Mhm.
immediately and look for that research paper because I don't want to have it paint anything I'm reading unless I know what research I'm reading about. And so if they say, "Oh, here's a scientific claim," and then they start building a case on that, I want to
Mhm.
know that that claim is true first, according to the scientists. So I will find peer-reviewed articles first, and if you don't know how to do that, scholars.google.com. That's how you find peer-reviewed information. That's
Mhm.
where all the peer-reviewed articles are on Google. So if you're looking for it on the just the main Google page, you're probably not going to find it as easily. If you go to scholars.google.com, that's where you can find peer-reviewed stuff. Um, and so that's usually what I'll just type. I'm a Google foo expert kind of thing. Like I can
Mhm.
keyword stuff in such a way that I know how to search for it. And anyway, we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's all
Yeah.
relevant to just critical thinking and how we arrive at conclusions. And whether
Mhm.
that's through news or through religion or whatever, it's all about being a skeptic. And that's another thing. I think we can kind of go off topic a little bit because we've kind of covered the ostracized atheist thing.
Mhm.
Unless there's more you want to talk about there, which you're welcome to do so.
Well, nah, I want to continue where we're
No.
at because
Okay.
I actually want to simplify it. You know how like there's a rampant thing that happens as well in social media is the celebrity deaths.
Yeah.
And some of us have already grown to Google first before sharing a meme or a status or anything like that. The
And that's
first
really
thing you do
good.
is you Google it. You
Yeah.
check it first. Don't believe what you see on social media.
Right.
You know, like if you use that sort of just basic inquiry of simple fact checking, if you apply that in most of the articles that you read and stuff like that, then I think you'll be more it will be fruitful for you. You'll be more knowledgeable because it's also satisfying knowing that, oh, okay, I double checked. I'm not going to look like a fool in public.
Right. And so, yeah, as far as critical thinking goes, that's really what it is for me, and that's what atheism is all about. It's like they'll. If you're an atheist, you can be an atheist for good reasons or bad reasons. And for me, someone who's atheist for bad reasons is like, for example, one of the conversations we've been having is, oh, well, these atheists, they accept evolution and it's false and all this. I'm like, evolution is irrelevant to atheism. If somebody became an atheist because they accept evolution, they had bad reasons. And that's not critical thinking, because there are Christian organizations, including Francis Collins, former head of the Human Genome Project, who accepts evolution, and he's an evangelical Christian. So it's irrelevant to atheism, and yet they want to argue against it, and they want to treat it like it's this big, serious topic for atheists. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with atheism, and I just don't understand that.
When I bump into people like that who use those sort of arguments, I always have to remind them that other people are literally born atheists. Just because you don't know one doesn't mean they don't exist. There are people in the
All
world
babies
who
are
are
atheists,
raised, but who are raised in a society where they don't actually acknowledge a god or they don't follow scriptures. There are people like that exist, and they're fine. They're okay.
I think most Buddhist sects, SETCS, are atheists in that they don't believe in a god, or but they do believe in like reincarnation and stuff. So they have a bunch of supernatural bullshit that they cling on to, but they're still atheists, and and so an atheist, if somebody tells you they're an atheist, that really doesn't tell you anything else about them. You have to ask them else about other things. And for me, my atheism is a product of skepticism. My atheism is not the source of how I became anything else. It's just the product of skepticism. So everything else is something else. And as far as that goes, also the religious groups who, like there's this one, I think, Born Again Christians on Facebook. They post a lot of this stuff, and I've been debating with some people on there just for fun. And one of the topics that comes up a lot is I bring up like slavery in the Bible and stuff like that, and then they think that I think it's an actual true story. How can I possibly be an atheist? Like, no, I don't think it's a true story. I'm arguing as if it is true, and that's what they don't understand. But anyway, I don't know. It's very strange talking with these people sometimes. But
Well, I just remembered something now about well, for some of our viewers, I'm also part of a band, and we're a horror band. So we have a lot of, I guess you would say, demonic elements, because we wear masks, we have makeup, we perform dark songs. Oh, we don't curse, by the way. People think that we're always cursing. We don't even curse. But we had one gig. It was our anniversary, our 10th year anniversary gig. We actually had a big group, a table of people walk out on our set, because we started with a sound clip with Beelzebub, Satanas, Lucifer, and when they heard it, they were doing the sign of the cross, and then they walked out. This was, I think, like 2 years ago. It was pretty fucking insane. That we're obviously in costume. We're performing. It's a show, and you can see by the poster, as soon as you come in, you know what you're getting into. But when we started performing, they just really up and left. And that was kind of, it's like, oh man, we lost some potential audiences. But I don't know. It's weird. It's weird how they couldn't just sit down and have fun with it. Because a lot of people think that the whole band, is that we're atheists because of the whole dark horror vibe and pentagrams and all that. But in fact, three of us are pastors, and one of us is a Mormon. They're religious people.
Mormons are interesting.
I had some here in my home.
The weirdness about this, for me, it's like, I'm not putting you down. I think it's fun that you do that. So I just want to clarify that before I jump into this topic a little bit. So for me, it's like you're doing cosplay, and I don't think that you actually believe any of this. I think the reason why the Christians get upset is because they actually think you believe this stuff is like, devil worshiping and Satan. They actually are offended by it because they think you actually think that. And I don't know if it's ostracizing you further to get back to the other topic, but it is interesting, and I think that's the reason they can't just enjoy it, because I know a lot of Christians who can very well enjoy Harry Potter, and
Yeah,
they know it's fiction,
exactly.
but I think if they actually thought that I actually believed Harry Potter was true and magic and witchcraft, they might actually look at me a little differently. So maybe
Mhm.
that's kind of where they're at with that. S. Roderick Roxas Chua says, hello from Oregon. Hello again, Ben and John. Thank you, S. Roderick. I appreciate it.
Hi.
We are actually live right now, and this is a call-in show. You can call in right here at bit.ly/PATAS call to go to our Discord. If you don't want to call in today, or you're not able to, you can email live at patasinc.org, and we will take your emails. But we are looking for atheist callers to tell us your story, because we want to know what it was like for you coming out of religion. Were you pushed aside by your families? And how was it for you growing up as an atheist, so to speak, when you were born again out of religion? um,
Yeah. Just
I, as,
closet
uh,
atheists. They're a bunch.
oh, that reminds me. I did want to back up to something you said, because I said it. I said all babies are atheists, and that's not actually completely true. Atheists, to me, is someone who has the cognitive ability to identify as an atheist who does not believe in a god. So for me, a baby wouldn't technically be
Mhm.
an atheist. They would just be someone who doesn't believe. But like a rock is not an atheist, right? But a rock doesn't believe. So it's
Mhm.
like it's very it's a subtle point. But anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
we are
Uh,
happy to take your live calls. Thank you for being here today, everybody. All 15 of you. I hope you're enjoying the show, and we're gonna keep trying to push this to get more theists on the calls. But yeah, go ahead. You had something you wanted to say.
I'm gonna post on the chat group. We're not Satanists. I'm gonna show that image of what we were wearing. It's on the chat group. What we were wearing at the time. There you go. So
I
yeah.
know.
So
I know a few atheists
oh,
or
go ahead.
Satanists. Well, I was gonna say I know a few Satanists who actually are. Most of them are atheists that I know. So for
Mm,
them, like I said, it was just cosplay. So even if you do identify as a quote
yeah.
unquote Satanist, I don't assume anything by that, because it's possible that you're just an atheist who identifies with that label just to piss off the Christians, which I'm totally okay with. So
Yes.
go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, like wasn't it that group of what do you call this? The Satanists that put up a Baphomet statue and all that. They're technically atheists
Right.
trying to break the wall of separation of church and state.
Yes.
They were trying to make a point.
Yes.
So yeah, it
Exactly.
is kind of like yeah, it is kind of like cosplaying. You know how like there are a lot of goth kids.
Hmm.
Goth kids are like, oh, they're automatically Satanists because they like to wear
Right,
black.
right. I used to think that actually when I was in this one I can remember because I was in high school. I knew some goth kids, and there were I was a Christian at the time, and I viewed
Mhm.
them as being spawns of Satan. It's so weird to think that way again, but like that's really what I thought. And now I look back at it and I think, were they just atheists and I just didn't realize it? Like that's kind of where I'm at right now, thinking about
Mhm.
this. And it was so long ago, it's really hard to say. Tracy Gutierrez says, hi, this is my first post. I was born and raised Catholic. Now I'm agnostic. My husband, on the other hand, was born and raised atheist. When my mother first met him, she could not understand how one could understand right from wrong without any religious path. But the more she got to know him and see what a good natured person he is, she sooner realized that morals and ethics are not tied to religion. That's actually a really good point. Thank you,
Mhm.
Tracy, for your story there. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm. We can go on that topic if you want, but I wanted to see if you wanted to
Mhm.
finish what you were saying.
Oh no,
Um,
no, that's cool. Don't worry. This is
I
actually interesting because
I like to keep stuff flowing, so I don't know.
yeah, the mother her mother realizing that the guy was cool and nice. I
Hmm.
think that's the goal of what our particular society of people
Yeah,
have to be.
that's what we're
You
doing
know.
right now. That's the whole point. Promote positive atheist culture so that people don't
Mhm.
think we're baby killing monsters out to destroy God's favorite country. So yeah, our whole our whole goal here is to spread the good word, the gospel of atheism, as it were. Which I
Mhm.
don't use that word lightly. It is the gospel means good news, and I think atheism is good news.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, how can someone be religious or be not religious and find morality? Well, secular
Yeah.
humanism covers that, and I think that's a problem I see with a lot of religions. Oh, if there is no God, how can you be good? Like, have you heard of
Mhm.
Euthyphro's dilemma? I think you probably have the Euthyphro dilemma.
No. Please expound.
It
What
originally
is?
had to do with piety. I don't know if I'm not really familiar with what that word means again. Let me look up the word again. Piety. It's a very old word. Yeah,
Mhm.
reverence. Okay, reverence, worship, that kind of thing. So it would be: is what God says pious because God said it, or is it pious irrespective of the God, and He's just informing us of it? And that's been used now to refer to morality. Is what God says moral because God says it's moral? In which case, God could say tomorrow that murder is moral, and it becomes moral. That's obviously flawed. Uh,
Mhm.
and then there's the other aspect. Well, if God is just informing us of what's moral, then we can discover it without the God, so He's not necessary. And so that's the Euthyphro dilemma. And secular humanism is a clear demonstration that you can come to moral conclusions without any religious doctrine. And as far as I'm concerned, secular moral systems are the only moral systems. Everything else is religion, in particular, is moral pronouncements about morality. It's not a system of coming
Mhm.
to any conclusion at all. So, yeah, I think I'm more moral now than I was when I was a Christian, and I think that is by and large due to how I think about moral conclusions and how I arrive
Mhm.
at them, and an understanding of right and wrong versus a goal of increasing well-being. So I'm along the lines of Sam Harris when it comes to that, because he
Mhm.
talks about it in the well-being language, and I've kind of adopted that.
Yeah, that's why some people will be able to see through the labels, and
Yeah.
they'll just really be able to understand that you could be a good person without God or faith.
Yes.
For I wanted to actually touch on this thing about the mom realizing that the boyfriend was actually cool and all that. Ben, are you a ninong, a godfather?
Am
Are
I a
you a godfather?
godfather?
Yeah, are you a godfather? Are you a ninong?
Um, as far as I know, I'm not a god. I am I?
Yeah,
I
because I
don't
was
know.
gonna lead.
I can't remember if my sister made me a godfather for her children or not. I don't think she did. I think there's some. No, 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 no. I'm not a
Okay,
godfather. Okay, sorry. Go
'cause
ahead.
there are a few of us friends, like within my close circle of friends, that were actually ninongs. So we did have to go to the baptism,
Mm,
put water on the head of the baby and all that. And the whole time, both mother, father, and family, they all know we're hardcore atheists. But see, they transcended that label, and they were
mm,
like, "No, these guys, these bunch of a-holes, we know are nice people that in case anything happens to us, we can
right.
leave our children to their, guardianship."
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
there are there are yes to yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just agreeing with you. I think that is entirely why we have shows like this. Why we have groups like PATAS. It's because we want to show people that we're good people. That we're no different than you or your religion. I mean, we don't believe in your God, but we haven't changed all that much from when we were religious. We're still good people. We still believe in doing nice things. Not all of us. Some of us become moral nihilists, and they're wrong to do that. But uh, I think it can be shown that that's objectively a worse position than any other. But as far as I'm concerned, shows like this are all about showing how atheism is a positive influence and how we can be good people too. And there's no
Mhm.
reason to shun us and push us aside and treat us like second class citizens and
Or
pretend that we
fear
don't
us.
exist or fear us. Yeah, yeah, that's even worse when they fear you. To be fair,
Mhm.
though, that can actually be a good way to get more power, but
Yeah.
it can also play against you. So I think that we should really work harder to push this page to other groups and to get more people calling in because we need to spread the word around a bit more. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would like to see this country at least become slightly more tolerant of the
Mhm.
non-religious because I have found that it's very toxic, um,
Mhm.
and it's so hard to combat that because
Yeah.
there's no reasoning with that for the most part. You have to just let them be assholes. And that's actually some advice I have for if you're a new atheist coming out and you've already come out and your family knows you're an atheist, just I think I can't remember who said it, but give them. I think it was Weinberg. He said give them like 1 year, want your family and friends 1 year to be assholes, and just be
Mm,
really nice the whole time. And then after that, start cutting people from your life because that's when you start to realize that they're not going to come around.
yeah.
Because my opinion is your family when you act like family, and I have some atheist friends who are more family to me than my own family. Even you, John, who I've only known for 2 weeks, is more family to me than most of my family. So
Oh,
it's
thanks, man.
yeah, no problem, no problem. And yeah, that's a very interesting take for some people, but I don't consider blood to be relevant at all in the discussion of
Mhm.
are we family because it's it's all about how we treat each other, and family to me
Yeah.
is a group of people that care about you, and whether you call that family or not, that's who I care about, and not the people I'm blood related to.
I
So
guess at the end of the day, it's deeds. Deeds will always trump labels. You can be labeled anything, but if your deeds, they'll speak for themselves. Your deeds will, diba? So yeah, just keep on being a nice person. That's all it really is. Like I know it's tempting to be an a-hole, like whether it's for sarcasm's sake or comedy or anything like that. But at the end of the day, the more time you spend with someone and actually like really, really know them, then things start to become clearer. You know, no one wants to go on living every day arguing or fighting or debating people. That's it's kind of sick.
I actually do, but maybe I'm sick. I'm probably a masochist, I think, because I spend a lot of time on the PATAS group forum just arguing with people who I know are never going to change their mind. Or, I shouldn't say that, who I don't think are likely to ever change their mind. Um,
Okay.
because I think I'm living, walking, breathing proof that obviously religious people can change their mind and come around to the other
Mhm.
side, but it is
Yeah.
a process, and some of these people are so mired in their belief. I don't think there's any chance for some of these people to come back around, especially. And I don't want to name names, but there's this one guy I'm talking to right now who just refuses to have an honest discussion, and I don't know what to do with that because I'm
Yeah,
doing
because you
my
can you
best.
can be you can be so far gone into something that you've put all your eggs in that basket and it's too late to come back.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's kind of like I have a little analogy of the way I'm a New York Knicks fan. So I was a fan of this basketball team in my teens,
Hmm.
and up till now, I'm still a fan, even though they're the shittiest team in the world. Because I always argue loyalty. Because for years and for years and for years, I've been saying, no, they're gonna win. No, they're gonna win. No, they're gonna. Like 25 years later, I'm like, fuck, I'm stuck. That's my team. Because I've been saying for 25 years, I can't just switch sides all of a sudden. Because if I do that, then I'll get ridiculed by everyone. It's kind of like you've built that fortress that you have to defend now. It's very hard to turn around. So I think there are some people who you might consider stubborn, who won't take any other perspective but their own because they've
Right.
locked themselves in there. And they don't even know it. They feel,
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit there, John. Um, so yeah, I actually on the back of that, I think there's a good um, there's a quote by somebody. I can't remember exactly what the quote is or who said it, but it's basically uh, we should always put our beliefs, even the ones that we take for granted, on the chopping block. Stuff that we've thought for a long time. And that's kind of what you were getting at. Is
mm,
there's I have been an atheist for a long time, and I'm constantly putting that on the chopping block for discussion because I don't want to. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. I want to know that or at least be as confident as I can be that what I believe is as true as it can be with respect to reality, because I actually care about that. And so, even beliefs that I think I know are true, I will still question them and research
mm,
rebuttals to things. And sometimes there's like, especially when it comes to politics, I'm really bad at understanding politics, and I do my best to try to understand it because it's such a complicated field. And
mm,
one of the things that I tend to do is I flip flop a lot on political issues that I'm unfamiliar with, like Joe Biden, for instance. I don't want to get too political here, but Joe Biden is a politician running for U.S. president right now against Trump, and I've been flip flopping a lot
Mhm.
on am I going to vote for him or am I not going to vote for him? Am I going to? And I've been back and forth like 4 or 5 times in the last 5 weeks just thinking about that because I just don't know, and
Mhm.
yeah, I don't want to get into the reasons because this is not a political
But
platform, but
yeah,
you
but
know
that's a
that's
good thing. When it's political, you look at both sides, diba?
yes,
So what I'm seeing now with some people who do like to argue with you or who are in that stubborn area, it's not really about the belief anymore. Sometimes when you're reading it, it starts to look like brand loyalty.
yes.
And I think that's the downfall of some people. It really becomes the brand loyalty that, oh, I've stuck by this, so therefore I'm gonna be. It's kind of like how, because I make beer. It's kind of like in the beer scenario, Pinoys will stand by San Miguel beer to the death. But then they won't acknowledge like local brewers like us who make beer, who make better beer actually than San Miguel beer.
Uh,
It becomes brand loyalty, man, and it's a very very tough mountain to climb.
I think you make a really good point here. This is something I also thought about. Is like especially when it comes to politics or just religion in general, is like this sort of uh, the more popular you are, the more likely you are to get votes, and not just popular like in terms of being a good politician, but just popular in terms of having name recognition. Like Donald Trump is more likely to get voted into office again just by virtue of being Donald Trump. And it has very
Mhm,
little to do with the fact that he's a good politician. I'm not, like I said, I'm not
mhm.
going political on this. My opinions on Donald Trump are irrelevant to the show, but that's just a fact. And like it's the same thing with like religion. The reason Christianity is so popular in so many parts of the world is because it's been around a really long time and it's had a long time to build up that reputation.
Yeah, and they've
You
got
know,
a very big sales team. They've got a
yes, a
huge, huge
big,
sales team, man,
a
to sell
huge
you their
sales
brand.
staff. Yeah, exactly. Uh, and I agree that that's basically it's an argument from popularity fallacy. Like, oh, this is true because it's popular. Joe Biden's a good candidate because he's popular. No,
Mhm.
that's not really how politics or reason in general work. And so you have to think about what it is this person's saying and get away from that mentality. And like, I don't drink beer, but if I did, I'd probably try yours with an objective mind and wouldn't go, "Oh, let's pull up
Yeah,
San Miguel as the real beer," you know. Like, but if I were a drinker, which I'm not, I would probably totally give your beer a fair shake because that's just the kind of person I
yes.
am.
See, that's why be a beer atheist.
A beer. um,
Okay,
Oh,
Nico said
Nikos.
something.
Interesting
Mhm.
comment here. I'll read it out loud if you're all right with that. By the way, I
Yeah.
would have to disagree with your earlier comment regarding evolution not relevant to atheism. I believe it is. It doesn't prove God doesn't exist, but it disputes creationism. No, it absolutely does not dispute creationism because you can't prove that God didn't have a hand in evolution, which is actually
Mm.
the Catholic viewpoint, which is that there's theistic evolution, which is bizarrely stupid. But they think that God had a hand in guiding evolution to where it goes. Now, granted, I would agree with you that evolution is not doesn't require a designer, but creationism in particular has to do with biogenesis and abiogenesis, and that's the beginning of life. And so, what we're talking about there is, can you prove that God didn't create life? Well, no, it's unfalsifiable. Can you prove that uh, we can only get there naturalistically? No, because the claim that it's religious or supernatural is also unfalsifiable. But as far as it being relevant to atheism, I agree that you could bring in some kind of relevance, but my point there is that atheism is not dependent upon evolution. Evolution can be proved false tomorrow, and that gives no credence to creationism at all, because creationism is its own claim that has its own burden of proof. So you can't conflate those two things. Anyway, went off on a side rail
But I
there.
will agree that I'll agree that it's a powerful argument because it's evident. And all the chat groups and all the atheist groups and all the religious groups, even on regular news feed, you see that it is a very, very popular argument or discussion that happens. So in that aspect, I will have to agree that it is a good argument to have, I suppose. Because one of us has to agree with Nico. It's because we're fair, we're balanced.
I don't agree with that at all. Let me clarify.
Mhm.
So I agree that it's a popular thing to talk about. I don't agree that it's a very powerful argument, because for me, um, it shifts the burden of proof away from Christians who are going to
Mm,
assert
that's
creationism
true.
to start defending evolution. Now, usually what I'll do is I will make my arguments for why I think evolution is true after I've already stated from the outset that I think A, this has nothing to do with atheism, and B,
Mhm.
even if you could prove it false, that doesn't demonstrate that there's a God that did it. Um, and C, if your claim is true, go get a fucking Nobel Prize, because you would absolutely get a Nobel Prize for
Yeah.
overturning evolution and
Mhm.
proving creation. So, um,
Yeah,
so
but
yeah,
that argument has been around for ages, man, and that's why
yeah,
it's always tied up and coupled with atheism, which has
yeah.
been
It's
a
really weird.
little sketchy at times. Yeah, because you can be an atheist and not be scientifically literate in that sense.
Yeah, or just not care. You don't have to care about it at all because
Yeah.
it's not relevant to your atheism. The If somebody says, "Oh, well, you need an explanation for how life got to where it is," it's like, no, I don't. I could just say I don't know, and that's good enough. I don't need an explanation. If I don't have an explanation, if evolution didn't exist, my answer would still be, what's the proof of creationism? Because there isn't any. They don't
Mm,
present any. The only proof that creationism offers is attempting to poke holes in the opposition, and
mm,
never actually demonstrating their case. They will just say things like, "Oh, it's too unlikely to happen," and I reject that,
mhm,
because if it's too unlikely to happen, it's unlikely things happen all the time. People win the lottery
mm,
all the time. People get struck by lightning all the time. Like, unlikely things are just part of life. So when you say it's too
yeah.
unlikely to happen by chance, isn't that what chance is? Chance is unlikely things happening. And when you
But
have yeah, go ahead.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I
What
was
were you
going
going
to
to say?
say Nico's actually followed up with it still disputes their Catholic theory that God had to do with it.
Yeah, no, it
Evolution
doesn't.
takes place throughout times, millions of years. Creationism is done with many even 6 days. No, I don't think it disputes it.
Yeah, I
It
think he's
all
oversimplifying.
it's a choice. It's a choice between two roads you want to take. They're not fighting to go to the same direction. They're just two different roads that you can explore.
I think that that's an oversimplification, not on your part, John, on Nikos'
Mm,
part, because well, first of all, the Catholic theory, and put that in quotes, but um, it doesn't disprove that. You can't prove that God didn't guide evolution. It's an unfalsifiable proposition, which means that your claim that it can be disputed or disproved is just false. But
mm,
evolution takes place through time, millions of years. I agree, and when I was a Christian, I still believed that. I still believe that the Earth was billions of years old, and that the 7 days was not a literal 7 days or 6 days, whatever. I believed that it was like a metaphor for billions of years each, or something like that. So it was not a literal 7 days for me, and I never believed that the Adam and Eve story was true. Well, at least not until I was like age 8, when I had the ability to reason properly. Um, some of my family thinks it's a literal story, but most of my family who is religious thinks it's a metaphor, and at least does accept most of the science. So I reject that it can disprove anything, and I reject that it disputes anything in religion. All it does to me is demonstrate that the religion isn't necessary. Um,
mm.
but other than that, it doesn't really solve anything for that. Um, I would
Yeah.
agree it's a
Well, if you
useful tool, but that's about it.
if you want a marriage, religious story and evolution with the millions of years and dinosaurs and all that, I highly suggest you Google Raptor Jesus. Then you'll get the best of both worlds there.
Oh, Raptor Jesus, that's
Uh,
classic. Oh boy.
We have a comment from Homar Murillo. Some atheists are also superstitious and irrational.
Yeah.
Hells yeah, and that's so weird. We discussed this last week, how some atheists have salt lamps, and I believe in essential oils. Well, one oil, bacon. Bacon grease is the best essential oil everyone needs. So I
Uh-huh.
guess I'm irrational in that way because I believe in essential oils. But yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's got nothing to do with atheism, the superstitious part. Because I think that's more of culture rather than, it's tradition already, some superstitions, and
Right.
people still do follow it.
Yeah. The salt lamps. God, why'd you have to bring that up? I actually have a friend who bought one of those and thinks that it's actually doing something, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like just. Oh, it's so frustrating looking at this pseudoscience garbage that I see all the time, and
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into a topic of veganism or anything, but I actually was having that discussion with someone about it's immoral to kill and eat animals and all this other stuff, and it's the biggest contributor to climate change, and the only solution is to get down to eating zero meat. And I'm like, well, is that true, or could we just reduce meat consumption? And all that kind of it's just they want to throw the
Mhm.
baby out with the bathwater, and then it's the same sort of I view a lot, not all of them, but I view a lot of vegan exercises in this to be oversimplifications and almost like a religious belief, um, and
Mhm.
I don't buy it. And I think that the same thing can be said for the Himalayan salt lamps and the essential oils and all this other crap. Now, there is some evidence that like lavender oil can help
Mhm.
you with migraines, um,
Mhm.
but there's no evidence that it's going to like cure your cancer or any of that shit. So I don't know. Drop all that out of
Yeah.
the discussion. Let's focus on what's
Well,
actually demonstrable.
yeah. Well, because like lavender or peppermint, or like when you have a cold and stuff like that, it kind of does offer some relief, but that's because it's playing with your senses and it
Yeah,
triggers stuff in your mind. Like if you're having a tough time breathing, which we talked about last week, inhale something mentholated. It will relax you. It won't
yeah,
solve the problem, but it will like trick your brain. It's kind of like how hypnotists work.
yeah. Actually, that's a really good bit.
It's
It's almost
tricking.
like a placebo.
Yeah.
It works because you think it's going to work in some cases. But yeah, there's like, have you heard of the binaural beats? Sorry, binaural beats. You know what this is about?
Sounds familiar.
It's sort of
Sounds very, very familiar.
it's a meditation type thing. The biggest YouTube channel on this is Yellow Brick Cinema, and they have a bunch of really great like sort of background music stuff. You wear headphones, and it has in the background
Mhm.
there's like a bass playing at 40 kilohertz on one speaker, and then the other side is playing at like
Oh, yeah.
60. And so when those
Mhm.
waves combine, they create like alpha waves in your brain. Um, there is some truth to that, but it's not the kind of truth that I think they assert that it is, where it like opens up your third eye and shit like that. So um, there's some truth to it though, because I have researched it, and as a musician, and it's one of my things that I do research these
Mm.
things. And you're a musician too, so you can probably look into this and understand it. But um,
Yeah. It's kind of like a ASMR.
yes, I was going to say that too. That was what I was going to do next. The only difference
Okay.
is, to me, like, this is a specific sort of brain repatterning, I guess
Tone.
is the way to put it. So
Mm.
like alpha waves are actual things in your brain that your electrical signals in your brain are running at. So when you're at a certain consciousness level, like you're focused, that's usually alpha waves in your brain, and that's true. We don't understand everything about it, but I have found that, and maybe it's a placebo. I'm not saying it's not, but when I listen to these binaural beats, I do feel like I'm more focused, and I think it could be a product of the binaural beat itself, or it could just be the really relaxing music that's calming me down. So it's it's really hard to say, and there's not extensive studies on this, but it is interesting, and it may or may not be pseudoscientific in some aspects. But that's the thing. I think it's fine to research these things. I think it's just dangerous to start taking every claim they make about it seriously without any
Yeah.
evidence, and that's where I draw the line. So I don't know.
Yeah, because with superstitious stuff, I think the one we discussed also before was all the ones that claim to heal. Because you can even put ventosa in there. You can put acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractors. You know, you can drop a lot of, I guess, questionable
Oh
science.
no, not chiropractors. Oh God. Okay, let me just say this for anybody watching who thinks chiropractors are good scientists or good doctors. Chiropractors do not have medical degrees. If they have a doctorate in chiropractic quote unquote medicine. They don't
Mhm.
put MD behind their name because they're not MDs. So when they say they're a doctor of chiropractic medicine, they are not medical doctors, just to be clear. And chiropractic does have some actual demonstrable benefits, and one of those is it can relieve back pain and neck pain. Everything else
Mhm.
is mostly crap, and you can get the same effect from going to a masseuse. um,
Yeah, but I'm actually really curious, but uh part of my brain says don't do it because there is like preservation of oneself involved. I do kind of find it sketchy, but the curiosity is killing me, man. I feel that
can
I'm
I
gonna have to
ask
see a
you?
chiropractor after the quarantine is done.
I've been to a chiropractor a couple times, and it was mostly for back
Oh
pain and
yeah.
neck pain, and it did help me
Mhm.
get my posture back in place. But it was to me, it was like a glorified massage. But I'm curious, like, what is your goal in going to a chiropractor? Maybe I can address it because my mom used to see a chiropractor all the time, and I'm very familiar with the science behind this. I might be able to tell you if it's even worth going because they're expensive.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm a sloucher. It's also because of my asthma, so my shoulders tend to rise. I'm not a hunchback, but yet, but I kind of feel like I'm getting there. My posture is really horrible, man. So that's one of the things. Like, if that, I guess I'm superstitious in that way, considering going to a chiropractor because I've gotten massages of different masseuses, different styles, but not a chiropractor. So
Right.
my curiosity is triggered. And
You are in a good spot then, because if you're going there for posture improvement, that is one of the areas where chiropractic medicine, and I put that in quotes, is actually feasible because it can actually
mm,
help with posture issues. In fact, that's you see me now. I'm kind of well, you can't see me, but I'm sitting up straight for the most part, and that's I didn't used to. I used to
mm,
slouch a lot more and sit more like this, down kind of. I'll turn sideways, down kind of like this, and now I sit a lot more straight. And it's all I only saw a chiropractor one time, and it corrected my posture. And then I bought a new chair, which has helped me maintain that posture. And then I just do exercises. There are, and I'm not going to get too much into the medicine on this, but you can. I'll send you a link later. There's a YouTube
mm,
channel that you can go to where they have certain exercises that you can do to kind of get your back into. One of them is pulling your shoulders straight back and together, and another one is where you
mm.
can push your chin down into your to the back of your head, so like pulls your neck forward. It's very unusual. I'll send you the video. Um,
Yeah, that would be very useful. And I think,
these
well, maybe some of our viewers will find it useful too. Because
so
man,
what I
you know,
found. Oh, go ahead.
no, because mobility is kind of shot, man. We can't even exercise, can't even go out. You
Yeah.
know, it sucks. It sucks, man. Quarantine sucks.
So what I was going to say about the chiropractor thing. When I saw the chiropractor, I saw him one time, and only for the sake of getting my posture and back stretched and corrected. Because I was nervous about going to someone who at least was just a masseuse, who may not have experience in working with necks and backs and might actually cause me an injury. I was at least confident in saying that, okay, this is a chiropractic doctor who's been doing this for 20 years and probably hasn't severely injured anybody, right? That's why I went to the chiropractor
Mhm.
for this and not a masseuse. Because dealing with back pain and neck pain is dangerous. It can be very dangerous. Any misstep can cause serious problems. And
Yeah.
what I ended up doing was seeing the chiropractor, and then after that, I kind of relaxed for a couple days because you do have to rest for a while after that because there's a lot of pain involved later. And then I started doing these daily exercises, daily stretches, and I still do them every day. Sometimes I'll just sit in my chair and like look forward at my screen and just turn the chair underneath me, and that helps twist my back left and right a little bit to keep my um, keep my skeletal column mobile. Anyway, I feel like we're way off left field now, but
Yeah,
uh,
because of the superstitious back pain.
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing. Like, there are actual legitimate scientific evidences for some of the pseudoscience. Like, chiropractic on the
See,
whole is probably mostly pseudoscience, but there's some truth to it, but that has nothing to do with anything else they're doing. That's the point.
exactly. It's a gray area because sometimes they like to throw in with superstitious healing practices. There is a touches of science there. That's why you also have to really do your research.
Yeah. Um,
It's masked.
yeah, and my mom was seeing a chiropractor for her legs, and it never really helped her legs permanently do anything. Um, Go to a physical therapist. Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm advocating here. Is that after I saw the chiropractor for just sort of the getting my back straightened out or whatever, I started watching these physical therapy videos because physical therapist is a medical science, physical therapy rather. And so there's a YouTube channel. Oh gosh, physical therapy. They're great. They're really great people. Bob and Brad. That's what it is. The two most popular physical therapists on the internet, Bob and Brad. And they give a lot of great advice on how to do certain exercises to relax your back, relax your neck, do this for your legs, that kind of thing. And it's really, really helpful. And I've found it incredibly useful. And they're completely right in almost everything they're saying because it's science based. It's not,
Mm,
bunk. It's not dope. Put
okay.
this leaf under your nose and sniff it for a while, and your back will be cured, or anything like that. Or wear this crystal around your neck.
Oh man.
uh,
Crystals. Okay, wait,
Crystal healing.
we're totally okay.
uh,
We totally derailed the conversation going
yeah, we
to
did. We
superstitious.
did. That's what
Sorry,
happens when you
sorry
guys
guys,
don't call us. That's
we're not atheisting properly.
We're not atheists. We're not being good atheists. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't going to call us, we're going to talk about whatever the fuck we want. That's just how it goes. So if you want to talk about something specific, or you have something you want to ask in the comments below, you can ask it down there in the chat room, or you can call bit.ly/PATAS call right here on the screen. You see that? You see that right there? Yeah. Go to that link, and that'll take you right to our call screeners, who will then proceed to screen your call to see if you're a person we'd like to talk to. So thank you for
Hmm.
watching, everybody. We're having a great time. We're almost out of time already. It's been almost 2 hours. Can you believe that? Uh,
Yep.
an hour and 20
Time
minutes.
flies.
It really does. I'm having a good time myself. I enjoy this. I don't care if nobody ever calls. If it's just us talking, I'm having fun. So, uh,
Well, so we're talking about atheists ostracized. Um, I'm trying to
okay.
remember a time where I got ostracized by a family member, but I recall because every time I bump into this particular person, he'll always try to poke the bear and tell me stuff like, hey, John, do you know that the Bible has science? Because the sun is there, the universe is described, even light is described. I
Okay.
kind of feel insulted sometimes by his approach
Right.
to the way he, instead of presenting a light conversation, it's like you kind of feel that there's a thorn in there, like he's really trying to poke at you or to mock you or to test you. I think that's one of the things that open atheists will always have to accept in their
Hmm.
lives, is that they'll constantly be triggered that way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm very easily triggered. I don't talk about this too much, but I am actually Um, certified autistic, but I'm on the spectrum, but not like extreme autism. I'm what they call, and I guess you could call it high functioning autism, but that's not really the proper term. And so
Mhm.
I'm very easily triggered by certain phrases or certain things people will say. But I don't want to get off on a tangent. We have a caller on the line. Um,
Excellent.
we have Tanya in Baklaran. You are on with John and Ben. How can I help you today? What you got for us? Tanya?
Hello.
Hi, Anya. Hi. Good evening.
Can you hear me?
The call screener said
Yes.
your name
Yes.
is Tanya with a T. Is that accurate, or is it Anya with an A only?
Yes, it's Tanya.
Okay. Hey, Tanya,
Oh,
how you
okay.
doing? It says here that you have a question about atheism. What's your question?
Oh, actually, I don't have a question about atheism. What I
Oh,
just wanted
cheater.
is
Okay. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
no. I just want you to explain of something regarding pandemic that God
Oh,
doesn't really exist. Yes, it's about pandemic
Mhm.
because most of my friends, or especially colleagues, are most Christians. So I
right.
just wanted some strong explanation about. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
hear
We're
you.
listening.
Yeah. I just wanted some strong explanation of how atheism can say that God doesn't really exist because of this pandemic.
Mm,
Okay.
I will try to
Well,
answer your question really quick as a shortcut, and then I will let John take over. So my instinct is to say atheists don't say God doesn't exist. That is anti-theism. So already we're on
Oh.
into some territory that's not something I would agree with. I think in general, atheist is just someone who doesn't believe there is a God, which is separate from whether or not there isn't a God. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know if you're familiar with how dilemmas work, but you address one dilemma or one prong of a dilemma at a time. So we have God exists, God doesn't exist. Those are the only two possibilities. And the question is, what do you believe about the claim God exists? So you either accept that claim or you don't. If you don't, you're an atheist, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily accept that gods don't exist. Does that help? Does that answer your question? At least a little
Hello.
bit? Oh, Tanya, did we lose you?
I was just there.
Okay. Anyway, I'll let John answer a little bit too. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So, John, as far as I guess the question is, if atheism is true, what does that have to do with the pandemic? I guess is kind of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Like, the pandemic demonstrates that
Well,
God doesn't exist. I don't know what your thoughts are.
one thing that I'm noticing from especially social media and how people are interacting is that you have religious people posturing, and basically that's why it's this is God's way of cleansing the world. This is the tests that we're being put through and all that. And on the other hand, you have atheists who are all online and who are just voicing out more often than they usually do. Okay, because they have a lot of free time, and there are a lot of memes coming out that are saying if God is real, then why doesn't He just snap the pandemic away? You know, that's why it's more of a situation like when a business goes down or a fire burns your home and then somebody asks you, oh, where's your God now? I think that's basically amplified. That particular trail of thought is amplified during the pandemic because you will have people question things, and then you have religious sectors which are demanding that they be allowed to have their congregations together, which totally goes the opposite way of what a quarantine is, what social distancing is. So what's happening, what you're witnessing now, Tanya, is atheists or other people of other religions calling other religions out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it just so happens na in the Philippines, maraming Katoliko, 'di ba? Maraming Kristiyano. So that's why it just looks like their God is being targeted, when in fact, it's all gods.
Yeah, and I actually have a
Like, suppose,
comment on that specific
Mhm.
claim because for me, this is essentially the problem of evil. If there's a good, all-loving good God, then why is there evil in the world? And I think that's probably one of the weakest arguments against the existence of a God because it could be that there is a God who allows evil and he's just a dick. And so it doesn't really argue against the existence of a God. All it argues is against the existence of an all-loving God. So in that sense, it's a good argument to use against that specific claim. But some Christians I've met have actually acknowledged that, oh, well, evil exists because God allows it to, because sometimes he's just trying to test us, and he's just an immoral thug sometimes. And I've actually met Christians who said, I think God's crazy. God's a dick. He's an asshole, and that's why he allows evil in the world. And so it's really hard to argue against that. So I prefer to address it from a logical standpoint rather than using the problem of evil, because I don't think it's a particularly strong argument. And I actually agree with pretty much everything John said, which is very rare. But no, I'm joking.
Finally.
Anyway, does that help answer your questions, Anya or Tanya? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
calling. Is
here,
there anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. Anything else? You have a story or any more questions you can ask us?
Today's topic is all about atheists being ostracized, and I suppose you're an atheist calling in. What is your view on that? You have any story with that?
Can someone tell me what belief I am with?
Yeah, what do you believe?
Actually, I don't know.
You believe?
Actually, I don't know.
Oh, you
If
don't know.
God is or God.
Oh, here. I'll change the question. Do you know any atheists?
Yes,
Ah,
most my friends
Are they nice people?
half.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to bring out that point that not all atheists are assholes or or kupal, diba? There's some nice ones. There's some nice ones out there.
I'm an
Mostly
asshole, and I'll
naman
openly admit it. But
parang mas madalas sa mga kaibigan kong atheist is sila
Mhm.
yung mostly na nagpo-promote ng humanity and saving the world,
Mhm.
like theism. Most of my Christian friends were like, "Uy, atheist 'yan, iwasan mo 'yan," wag gano'n. Parang gano'n. So,
Yeah.
ako as a person, 'di ko alam kung parang neutral na lang ako actually sa kanilang dalawa.
yeah,
Mhm.
Kasi oo,
go
kung
ahead.
I respect beliefs though. Although Muslim ka, Christian ka, Katoliko, or atheist ka, yun lang, dun lang ako nalilito kasi. Or
Mhm.
siyempre, bilang friend nila, yung isa hihilain ka dito sa kabila, yung isa hihilain ka dito sa kabila. So,
Yeah,
yun.
you're being made to choose sides. Yeah.
So I
Ganun
have
talaga.
this.
That's what really happens. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I have this objection to people who say they're not atheists, they're agnostic, and I promise I'm not going to beat you up on this, Tanya, because I realize it's just a colloquialism. But you either believe in a god or you do not believe in a god, and to say you do not believe in a god doesn't mean you believe there are no gods. So you cannot be some middle ground between atheist and theist. You either are an atheist or you are a theist. Now, whether or not you use those labels is a separate issue. But if you say you're agnostic, you haven't answered the question. Agnostic deals with knowledge. It's right in there. Gnostic, knowledge. And so if you say, if somebody asks you, do you believe in a god, and you say, I don't know, well, they didn't ask you about knowledge. They asked you about belief. So the answer was not, I'm an agnostic. It's, I don't believe. I'm an atheist. But I understand some people don't want to adopt the label. It's a label that has a lot of baggage to some other religions, and I can understand that. My only objection is to the actual concepts themselves. You either are an atheist or you are a theist. There is no middle ground between those two. That's it. I just wanted to point that out. But otherwise, yeah, I don't. If you don't actively believe there are any gods, you are an atheist by definition.
Mhm.
Oh.
And if your atheist friends keep giving you shit, tell them they're not atheisting properly. And tell them to watch your show.
That's funny.
I know that when someone pushes, parang lagi niya sinasabi na God does not never exist. Parang, what do you
Yeah,
call it?
that is a strong atheist. You can call them that. A weak atheist would be someone who does claim this just doesn't claim that. But I think a better term for it is anti-theist because they're taking the
Mhm.
opposite stance. Atheist just means not theist, but an anti-theist would be counter or opposite of theist. So
Yeah.
it's addressing the other claim of, do you think no gods exist? If the answer is yes, you're an anti-theist. If the answer is no, you're an atheist. So I happen to believe there are no gods, but it's not something I claim usually in debate because it shifts the burden of proof unnecessarily. Because the burden of proof is on the people claiming there is a god, and I think that we should hold their feet to the fire on that. But as far as your atheist friends being assholes about it, have them call into my show, and I'll be assholes right back to them. So there you go.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I like to
He
meet
sound he
people where
sound
they're at. So.
yeah. He sound well, if it's not militant atheist, if he's just really strong. If he kung parating that's what he always talks about and stuff, I think there might be an underlying issue. Because you know, there's so many things to talk about in this world that if that's all he talks about every time you hang out with him, then there might be something wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. People have issues, man. So sometimes you have to understand that he might be going through something, or he might even be questioning his own faith or lack thereof.
right. I tend to not bring it up with other people unless they bring it up first. So if he's just bringing it up to
Yeah.
annoy you, then maybe he's not worth your time. But that's another. I can't give you relationship advice. This isn't the show for that. But hopefully we
Yeah.
helped you out today, Tanya, and I appreciate you calling in. And if you have anything else you want to talk about, feel free to leave it in the chat, or you can call back in another time. But thank you so much for your call. We're going to let you go now. All right, Tanya? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, I just remember this meme
Mhm.
because she was asking about God's place in the pandemic. Have you seen this meme of a broken? I think it was a Ferrari, a crashed car, and
Oh,
the plate
yeah.
says
I think I have.
Jesus is my co-pilot or Jesus
Yeah,
take the wheel.
I have seen that one.
I think that meme, the quarantine is an amplification of that meme. It's the irony of praising and thanking God for all the blessings, and yet we're all in this giant car crash. All societies around the world are going through this car crash, and it's got that beautiful plate of Jesus is my co-pilot. So yeah, it's. I think we talked about this a week ago. How
Probably.
yeah, atheists are coming out with a lot of memes nowadays.
Um, I like memes. I remember mentioning this last week. I think I like the memes. I do think they can be a good launch pad for healthy discussion. Although I think they can also be
Mhm.
unnecessarily offensive. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I have mixed feelings about it.
you can't give offense. You can
Right.
only take offense. That's why.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the humor lies in the hands of the beholder. So
I was going to actually
having
say
a
that because
health.
offense is taken, not given. So I would agree with you. That's probably an ill-formed way of me thinking about it. But yeah, go ahead.
It's really a test of people's patience and humor right now, because that's
Right.
why a lot of people have so much time on their hands right now that it's no surprise that there's so much content. There's so many videos, so many photos, so many blogs, so many everything is coming out, especially online, and that it looks crazier than usual. It's just because all these people who are supposed to be at work are on fucking Facebook.
Yeah. Um,
That's another thing you have to consider. Mhm.
so, like, I've seen a lot of these memes. Some of them are really funny, and some of them are
Mhm.
oversimplified, like they're trying to bumper sticker stuff. And like one of the conversations I had, and I don't remember the guy's name, and I'm not going to name him anyway, but it was like, um, oh my stance is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I said that's an oversimplification because what if they don't want you to treat them with honesty? They want you to lie to them. And so,
Mhm.
but you like being honest with everybody, but they don't like that. So it's like to me, I think better is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. And even that has problems because if they're like suicidal and they want you to shoot them in the head, I think there's a limit there. So, um, it's kind of complicated it's hard to bumper sticker life, and
Yeah.
sure, for the most part, I agree. Golden rule: do unto others as I would have you do unto them. But there are exceptions to that are very strong, and issues with that I have issues with, and so it's this is where I've run into problems with memes, is because I think they're just oversimplifications on things and usually addressing something very specific.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And
we addressed this last week because some I
yes,
forgot who asked it, but he asked why do some atheists he has a they just reply with memes sometimes, and I think I explained it how some of them have gone through the conversation so many times that they'll just oversimplify it and just slap a meme there because they
yeah,
either don't want to discuss it or they're tired of discussing it, or yeah, for whatever reason they just want to be dicks. You can't control
and
people.
that's where we have a lot more work to do, because yeah, it can be really exhausting talking to these people, these Christians that are espousing these beliefs. But I tell you what, they're not going to give up talking about it. They're not going to stop putting forward these arguments anytime soon. So we got to
Mhm.
stay adamant, and we got to keep pushing against that with reason and rational discussion, and not be dismissive. Yes, sometimes being dismissive can be fun, especially between atheists, but when it
Mhm.
comes to having actual serious discussions, we're nowhere near anything that I would consider like a success as far as atheism
Yeah.
worldwide goes. So we still have a lot of work to do, and I'll probably be on this show every week for the next 10 years and go through the same arguments over and over and over again. And I'm okay with
Yeah.
that, because there's people who will be listening for the first time who won't have heard what I've said before and will still benefit from hearing it for that time. So it's important to
Mm.
not get exhausted and not get tired by it. I think.
Yeah. It's being vigilant about being vigilant for the sake of the community, and I guess for yourself also.
Yeah.
Because if you have to be consistent with also. That's why I love this program. I love the fact that you guys started it because it's it's something people can lean on. Something, especially since we are the minority group
Hmm.
religion wise. More often than not, atheists really feel alone. Like I'm sure this
Yeah.
pandemic time, even more alone.
Yes. And I think it's exposing a lot of the difficulties with that, because I mean, even the Christians now are like, oh my gosh, I really want to get back to my congregations and go back to church and all this stuff. And I think we saw we talked about a post from a pastor who was complaining, or what was a priest who was complaining that they're only allowing 10 people into their congregations or something. And you
Yeah.
know what? Fuck you. Do your congregations online. Do your live streaming. There's no reason for you to have people in your church at all. You're going to get people
Yeah.
sick. You're going to spread this virus around. It's a serious problem. So anyway,
And they can start a GoFundMe
yeah,
because some churches are complaining that they don't have enough cash already. Like I understand, like some churches they have janitorial services, they have cleaners, they some have even gone under reconstruction and all that. Like yes, they do need the cash, tax free by the way. You know, there are other ways around to yeah to resolve their issues. They really shouldn't be going on headlines and the front pages like demanding that you know let us worship, give us back our freedoms. It's
and
quarantine.
I think that a lot of churches do a lot of good, and I'm fine with that. But
Mhm.
if these churches want to collect their, immoral profit from their sheep congregation, that's on them, and they can go to GoFundMe
Mhm.
and do it. But your congregation shouldn't be going back to church right now, especially with the abysmal testing in this country. Talking about the Philippines, for those of you who
Yeah.
think I'm not from here, I actually live right here in Eastwood. So yeah, the testing in this country has been abysmal. We ranked. There was a recent article. We ranked 20th out of 20 in all Asia Pacific countries for being quote unquote the safest country to be in during the pandemic. We are the least. The Philippines is the least safe country to be in during the pandemic, according to this research on a very varying criteria. And it's
Mhm.
like the availability of treatment, the availability of testing, the ability to actually quarantine for long periods of time. All these are factors that they took into account, and they determined that the Philippines is below freaking like Vietnam and shit like that. It's like we're the least safest country to be in. That is pathetically bad.
Exactly.
Pathetically bad.
Yeah, we
And
talked about
so
it last week. We're not going to go out till October. We're
I,
going to stay in.
I'm not going out till there's a vaccine, other than having to move, which I'm gonna have to do. I don't have a choice in that matter, pretty much. Well, I do have a choice. I could fight it and stay here and let them turn off my electricity, but then I couldn't do this show. So, so I'm gonna bite the bullet and
Yeah.
we're gonna move. But anyway,
Keep the show going. So, with atheists being ostracized, back to that social media, I guess it's responsibility. There is the call out culture happening now, and a lot of people are online. So you are being judged. Everyone is being judged online. So if you don't want to be ostracized, please be careful. Be
yeah,
careful for yourself and for the community, because memes can be funny. Jokes are always going to be what they are, but yeah, always second think before posting. Just think about it,
this is
because
something I
it sucks being
tell.
ostracized.
I've told my
Mhm.
atheist friends this, and I will continue to tell them this. I want as many out atheists as possible, because the more out atheists we have, the easier it is for us to gain influence and show that we're not a danger to these people. But at the same
Mhm.
time, if coming out is going to put your family at risk, or your health at risk, or your livelihood at risk, um, if you're in danger at all, I don't want you to come out. Keep lying, keep pretending you're a believer if you have to. That's totally fine. You're not a bad atheist. You're just doing what you have to survive, and that's totally fair. So I have no
Yeah.
problem with atheists that are not able to come out. I think that's completely laudable, and the people who can come out, like me and you, need to continue to do shows like this so we can make a safer environment for them to come out. And
Yeah.
that's why we do the show.
You know what would suck if the quarantine and the vaccine it's all there, it's available, it's all over. It would suck to be ostracized after and be like, oh yeah, I fucking remember the time when we were in quarantine and you were being a complete dick to everyone. And then
Yeah.
you could even be disowned by family.
Yeah.
So
Fortunately,
yeah, don't risk it.
I've already burned all those bridges, so I'm good to go. Like I don't have I don't have anything to worry about there. No, it is an ongoing thing though. Like I've tried to rebuild
Imagine
some bridges with my family, but
mhm.
um,
Imagine getting kicked out of your home during quarantine. It's
oh
like, go
god,
live with your uncle.
no,
That would really suck, man. You don't want to put yourselves in that position.
no, absolutely not. And I would definitely not recommend anybody ever allow that to happen, because I mean, these people, they're not moral. That's not a moral position for a family to have. That's not love. They don't love you if that's what they're doing. To me, that's a demonstration that they're hateful, spiteful people. But um, keep pretending until you can go out on your own and be safe. So that's what you got to do. And keep watching our show if it helps you get past past having to listen to their crap all the time. Anyway, yeah, we're coming up
That's
on
what we're here
the
for.
8 o'clock mark here already. Wow. What now?
Mhm.
Sorry.
I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah,
I do that all the time.
yeah, it's quarter. Yeah. So back to the whole ostracized thing. It's a word that really sucks. Ostracized. I'm trying to figure out what it is in Tagalog. If anyone can help us in the comment section, what is it in Tagalog? I completely forgot what it means, or I mean the translation in Tagalog, because that's what really sucks, dude. Getting disowned, getting even by friends.
Right.
There's no more powerful emotional regret and disappointment that you'll ever get than
Um,
losing human connection, because
I don't,
human
I don't,
connection is really important.
I don't know if this is the right word,
Well, you
but it says
mm,
here echapuera,
it's a
or es.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
better. Okay.
I can't say it, but
Yeah.
let me press the play button here. Hang on. What does it say? It didn't play. Oh well. Ostracized,
Yeah.
left out, echapuera. I suspect that's the closest word that we're gonna get today.
Mhm.
Uh,
But
Anyway,
yeah,
I
I'm
didn't
trying
mean to
to
interrupt, but continue if you want to.
trying to like harness that feeling of being alone, man. And it
Yeah,
sucks. And a lot of atheists before the quarantine already felt alone.
yeah, I'm used to the
I'm
feeling.
trying to see
I've
that's the thing, but
yeah.
you had to adjust to it through time.
Oh
It
yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
happen overnight. That, "Oh, I'm
No,
fine
it
with
was.
this, you know.
It felt like losing. It felt like people dying. Like I mean, it almost felt like that to me. I was devastated. Like I didn't go back to when I became an atheist. I didn't go looking for a reason to be an atheist. I just could no longer
Mhm.
support my beliefs, and I kept being hit with all these arguments that I just couldn't rebut, and just to me were reasonable. And at some point, I just had to accept. Oh gosh, I'm an atheist. Like I had to recognize it in myself, and it was emotional. I was crying a lot. I was devastated. It was really hard. I felt like I had lost something. And then when I started losing my friends and family, it felt like they had literally just fallen off the face of the earth because they just weren't talking to me anymore.
Mm.
It actually felt like they had died in some way because they were just gone. They weren't talking to me anymore. They weren't on Facebook anymore. They had blocked me from their lives. They wouldn't respond to me. They were gone.
Mm.
It was really hard, and um, yeah, it was very emotional, and now I'm just used to it. I'm just used to um, people ostracizing me from family or whatever, or friends who find out I'm an atheist and
This
don't
is
want to
the new,
talk to me.
this is your new norm. This is the new norm for you.
Yeah,
This life already.
I'm okay with it at this point. It doesn't affect me at all in any negative way. I'm totally okay with it. So,
All right, we got a comment here from Mia Tatanko. She says, I had a philosophy of religion class in college where the professor on the first day asked the class to raise their hands if they were Catholic or Muslim or Christian or another religion. Or lastly, atheist. The professor dubbed me their resident atheist that day. I didn't know how to feel or feel special or to feel alone. Yeah, see, that's the thing. We were discussing earlier on about labels, and yeah, if you are the resident atheist, I think that's where the ostracizing really begins. Once you're labeled as that we were joking earlier on how, for example, I would be asked to say grace because they all knew I was an atheist and they found it funny, especially titos, their tito jokes. So they'll always go after, an easy target. It's like doing fat jokes with a fat person. That's the easiest thing to do. It's not
hey,
witty. It's not,
hey, wait a minute.
you know.
Wait. No, no, yeah, I actually completely agree with you, and I would say to Mia, first of all, I would be really surprised if you were even the only atheist in that room. I think what's more likely is
Mm,
you were the only one brave enough to say you were an atheist. Um, I'm, I am
that's true.
confident
That's very true.
that there are more atheists than want to admit are atheists, and like I said, that's totally fine for them to do that. But a lot of people just, as Daniel Dennett would say, they just believe in belief. They believe in the value of professing their beliefs. They don't necessarily, and I'm not saying this is true for all of them. I want to be clear. This is very
Mm,
specific type of person I'm talking about. That they don't necessarily actually believe this stuff about religion. They just haven't really thought about
mm,
that part, and they just value the community. They value the not being ostracized. They value being a part of the group. It's sort of a group think. Like it. And what's really interesting is once somebody comes out as accepting or professing a belief, they are far less likely to change their mind once they've done that.
mm,
It's sort of a psychological thing. Like as soon as someone comes out as like in support of conservative Donald Trump or something, they're far less likely to change their mind on that. As soon as someone comes out as a Christian, they're far less likely to change their mind. If you're like if I come out as an atheist, which I did, I'm far less likely now to change my mind, and I that's actually something I have to recognize is that bias that we create in our own heads. Um, you have to be aware of that and be able to kind of dig at those thoughts and think critically about it. But yeah, I would say you probably weren't the only atheist in that room. Almost certainly there was at
mhm.
least one other that just hadn't thought about it. Um,
But yeah, this brings me back to my religious classes back in college and
hmm
even in high school.
Yeah.
In high school, wasn't as much as it was in college. In college, dude, the brothers loved me. I went to a school with brothers, and they knew I was atheist, but they would love to hang out. They knew I could discuss with them. They were, I guess, they find it in Tagalog na aliw. They're amused. They're amused by it that they can have these ping pong battles, mental ping pong with somebody who doesn't completely agree with them. And some of them put value to people like that because it's different. Some people are amused or amazed or curious about people who don't agree with them, which is cool. That's why everyone has a different sports team. That's why people have different preferences for movies or music. you know like I have friends who like sappy love stories. Once in a while we will clash, but it's because you know
And that's actually, those are my favorite conversations, are with people who, even though we may not agree, are open minded to having an honest discussion. Because
mm,
at least, at a minimum, I'm just showing them that being an atheist isn't a bad thing. And not agreeing with them doesn't mean I hate them. And it doesn't mean I'm out to, steal their beliefs. And yes,
mm,
in an ideal world, I would have a world of no religion. But at no point in that goal of no religion would I ever enforce or advocate against taking people's religious beliefs away, because that's absurd anyway, because you couldn't even take their
mm.
beliefs away or legislate against their beliefs, anything like that. So I think having those discussions is really valuable. There are people, obviously, like I was talking about, that just aren't worth my time. They're just too dishonest to even talk to. But I love those discussions with the theists that are totally open to it, um, and just love having the conversation. There's one of my friends who we talk like every week. We have at least one little conversation about something he posted, some religious thing he posted, and it's totally civil. We're good friends and we get along just fine. And he's really open. He listens, and he doesn't necessarily see, like, I'll point out a logical fallacy and he goes, well, is it really a logical fallacy? And then, like, I'll kind of guide him through it and he still won't see it, and he'll make excuses for it, but he's listening to me and he's trying to understand, and that's totally valuable, and I get that too. So I had a comparative religions course in college as well, and I think comparative religions courses are great. But what's funny is I was a Christian in that comparative religious course, and there were a lot of other people who believed a lot of other things. There was some Muslims, a Hindu, stuff like that. And I'm like, God, these people believe crazy shit. And I'm now looking back, going, so did I, you know.
Yeah,
So, uh,
exactly.
yeah, once you start to realize that, it's easy to fall away from it, and I think that's one of the values in comparative religions courses too. And I would be fine advocating a mandatory comparative religions courses for all high schools or even colleges, but specifically high schools, because I think that it's probably one of the most valuable things we can have, is being able to look at your beliefs from the lens of somebody else who may not agree with it. And yeah, that's super important. Anyway, uh, we
All
are.
right. Yeah. So we
Go
are
ahead.
your resident atheists.
We are your resident
I
atheists,
think.
yeah. And
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be the resident atheist in a group or family or
no.
yeah. Just try not to get yourself ostracized.
And if you do,
I think
and
that's
if
the
and if it if you do accidentally get outed as an atheist, or just do your best to make the situation better by being as nice of a person as you can be. And I think that's really the best way to combat it. Is just, if once you've been outed, even if it was on purpose or accident, and you find that you're having a really shitty time. I think there was a book, and I can't remember what it's called right now, but I'll look it up later and post it in the chat. Um, they basically went over like dozens and dozens of atheist stories and asked them essentially, did you regret coming out as an atheist? And I think only one person out of the hundreds said they actually regretted it, um, in the long term. So short term, it might be really hard and it might be really emotional, but in the long term, it's actually a really valuable thing to do. So, any last words on this before we kill the stream? Because we're coming up on the 8 o'clock
uh
mark.
yeah, Mia comment she realized she googled disowned and in Tagalog it's called itinakwil. So yeah, there
Ah,
you go. Wag kayo sana matakwil ng
thank
itinakwil
you,
ng
Mia.
inyong mga pamilya. Yeah. That's a tongue twister for you, Ben.
I
Itinakwil.
one day I've actually been I just started using the Rosetta Stone app to try to learn Tagalog, and so far all I can do is say things like I'm drinking this water right now. So umiinom ang mga lalaki. So they or no ang lalaki. Mga would be multiple, right? That's
Yeah,
plural,
yeah.
right? So umiinom ang lalaki. That's where I'm at right now with Tagalog. I'm trying. I want to be able to speak it better so we can have more conversations on the show. So it's my goal to spend as much time learning it as I can. Um, but- so
And so I
in a
guess that's
minute,
it for episode 4.
yeah, in
We'll
a
leave it
minute
at
we're
that.
gonna be
Umiinom ng tubig na lalaki. Mhm.
Tumatakbo. We're gonna be running away. So that's. I'm such an amateur at this already. You can tell, right? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Remember, if you didn't get into the show today or you didn't want to, you can email live at patasinc.org right there on the bottom of the screen. You can see it right there. We will take your emails. You can also go to our website at, what is it? Patasinc.org. I'm the one who made their website. It's actually a really nice website. And I will say this, you can also donate if you're willing and able to provide a donation. Please consider visiting the website down below. It will really help us keep doing this show because it is a very expensive way to produce a show, but we do the best we can, and we welcome all ideas. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. We will see you next week, where we will have, hopefully, Jenna Belk on the show. Thank you again to our friend here, John. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Ben.
Hopefully, we'll see you next week. Bye
Hail
bye, everybody.
Satan!
All right. Bye bye now. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you, John.
That was good. That was good.
I